Welcome to the Unapologetic with Janine McKinnon podcast, your go-to place for approachable conversations around sacred sexuality and conscious relationships. I'm your host, Janine McKinnon, certified trauma-informed sex, love, and relationship coach who's on a mission to support 1 million women and couples to experience deeper connection and more expansive pleasure inside and outside the bedroom. This is the space to go deep, to dive below surface level relationships and mess sex and explore the sacredness that sexuality and conscious relationships have to offer. Because deep connection, spiritual sexuality, full body orgasms, and transmuted sexual energy are available to everyone. And I'm here to serve the collective, to provide the knowledge, wisdom, and tools to access them. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful we're able to connect in this way, and I can't wait to dig into the contents of this episode with you. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to the Unapologetic with Janine McKinnon podcast. And today I am joined by Vita's sister, Kimberly Coffin, intimacy, relationship, and Tantra teacher, speaker, and coach. And I am so excited to have her on. We had a really great conversation on her podcast, Get Your Sexy Back. And I'm really looking forward to bringing in her grounded flavors around relationships here on this podcast. So welcome, Kimberly.
Thank you so much for having me, Janine. I am honored to be here and really excited to continue our conversation and dive into all of these topics, all of these amazing, deeply needed topics.
Yes, very deeply needed, which is why we do what we do, right?
Totally. Yes. Totally.
So I would love if we could start out with just sharing a little bit about who you are, your journey, why you do what you do.
I'm going to try and give a brief but thorough backstory because I think, if I go all the way back, or I'm going to start maybe in the middle. Basically, I'm a mom also of 3. We're adults now. We've got 24 and a half, 21 and a half, and 19. Mm-hmm. And my story, a lot of it goes back into my 30s and early 40s of really coming to a head with being a mom, going, doing too much, kind of getting to the end of my rope. If I go all the way back, let's go all the way back. It's funny. I haven't shared this in such a while, and it's such a core story, and I want to share so much more going forward of what is possible, because there's so much possible. But basically, if we're going to look all the way back, I was sexually assaulted when I was a teenager by my stepfather, and that, along with my telling my mother the next day, and she believed me. She believed me initially. Let me be very clear there, and then within hours did not. It really was a very big body, sexual, personal self violation. There was so much shame and everything kind of locked into that, along with this betrayal, that I kind of put away for a very, very long time. And that's a key piece to share, simply because as I had these children, right, in my 20s, all my 20s, and moved into my 30s, and as I was, being the perfect mom, doing everything, go, in a very much of a proving energy, everything kind of came to a head. And it was towards my late 30s where everything kind of wasn't enough. And I was actually feeling very guilty for not enjoying what I had. I had a beautiful family, white picket fence, 2.5 children, 3 technically, 2 dogs, right? And everything that everybody's like, oh, you have it all. And yet I wasn't happy. There was something there that was truly deeply eating at me, and it left me in a very low, dark place. So everything came to a head in 2017, which was really, really interesting. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I got an invitation to a Mama Gina program in New York at that same time, and I was like, yes, I am going. I had no clue how I was going to go to New York alone. And meantime, I think we had 2 hockey tournaments on that weekend also for both 2 of the 3 kids
Oh,
in rep
wow.
sports. Oh yeah. I was like, I don't know how I'm getting there in December. And it was September at the time, but I am going. The same time the Me Too movement happened. And that blew me away. My mother had never spoken of me, claiming I was sexually assaulted by her husband, who had been my stepfather since I was 6, the entire time. I'm now 40. This happened at 14. It'd been like 26, 27 years by the time this had happened. And the Me Too movement gave me huge, huge empowerment, scared shitless. And at the same time, I read every single story I possibly could. I was looking and reading and reading, and I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And you don't know my mother. Like, it was very much she was still very much, even as a 40-year-old, controlling and manipulating my life in so many different ways that I didn't see at the time. So that Me Too movement gave me the courage basically to say, something's got to give here. Like, this has to give. There's no more pretending that I'm something that I'm not, pretending that I'm this big can I swear on this podcast?
Fuck yes.
Good. I'm this big fucking happy family. When my daughter was hitting 6 too at that time, I was like, no, there's no way. She's not on my hip all the time. This is not happening. So I really started to dive deep, and I'd pulled back a little bit over the years, but that was it. I got up the courage to confront them. And that was life-changing, scary as all get out, but it really initiated my healing journey then I landed in the School of Womanly Arts for a few years, working with them, working with Layla. Everything kind of accumulated and came together. And this is like 8 years ago, eight years ago now. I don't even know how many years it's been, but everything really has come to the most beautiful place in my life. And I have to put it all back to these dates and these stories and this wounding and this trauma, essentially, that really gave me enough catalyst to initiate into a change, which literally has been unapologetic reclamation of me, of my body, of my life. I didn't like my body. I kind of enjoyed sex, but of course you don't admit that you enjoy sex, right? There's something there for women. There's a lot of sexual shame in there. There's a lot of body shame in there. It left me very much people pleasing, trying to fit in, proving I was good enough. There's a lot tied into there. So I spent many, many years having this personal reclamation journey while I was still married and raising 3 kids. And it was a beautiful journey. And then towards 2022-ish, in there, it was like I was making these big strides and making these big changes and reclaiming my life and my body and my truth and my purpose and my everything in so many different ways. And my ex-husband now at the time was sometimes along for the ride and sometimes not. But as we got into 2022, 2023, it was like, okay, no, this has to give. This isn't working anymore. He doesn't actually want to come along for the ride. And I felt like I was really being held back. And I had to do a lot of hard work through that. And I ended a 26-year marriage. Officially, I think when we met earlier in April. I think it was actually Good Friday was the day I was officially divorced.
Yes, the day before.
Yep. It was crazy. That's what the day the judge signed off and said it is effective in 30 days. But I had to have this huge personal reclamation journey first. And I share this because what has evolved from that is the most incredible relationship. The most incredible relationship where I have done my work first and foremost on myself, on my body, on my sexuality, on my trauma, and then shown up in relationship in that way, in a new relationship where literally I feel like the universe was like, oh, good job. Here you go. Here is somebody who is literally at your level and ready to do all of this with you. And I don't even recognize that life. Like, I actually don't recognize that life. So much amazingness continues to open up for me in just simply choosing me unapologetically, like full reclamation, choosing me, saying no more, putting down the boundaries. And I'll let you ask questions from here.
So beautiful. And I think so many women listening to this right now can relate to many different parts of your story.
Yeah.
with different abuses or different things happening in the past, with the betrayal, with the producing, pleasing, being super mom, trying to do it all right.
Yeah.
And then getting to a point where I love how you shared about the guilt that you felt around, like, I have it all. I have everything. I have these 3 incredible kids. I have this husband. I have the white picket fence. We have all of those things, right? But yet something's missing that I so deeply crave. Something is eating up inside of me. And I think so many women can relate with that guilt because we
Yeah.
feel like we should be happy. We have all of these things. We're wrong for wanting more. And that's where a lot of women get stuck. And I love how you shared about your journey unfolding, and it felt like a real reclamation going to the Mama Gina weekend, even amongst the craziness of the double tournament
Oh, yeah.
weekend. Because again, I think so many moms can relate where we often get in our own way with excuses from our responsibilities and our obligations. And we have family, and it's too complicated to do these things for ourselves. So I'm just not going to bother.
It's
So
too hard.
I felt the pivotal moment in that
Mm-hmm.
where you're like, no, I am doing this.
Mm-hmm.
It'll get figured out. And I felt very similar when it came to me doing Vita and Layla Martin's program. Is I wasn't sure how it was all going to work out. I actually received a no when I first talked about it and tried to figure out logistics. And I was like, no, I'm not taking that as an answer. And I'm going to figure out a way. And I don't really know how it's going to unfold, but we're going to make this happen. And those
Same thing for
pivotal
me.
moments make such an impact on where we're going and how things unfold. We need that declaration for ourselves to really create that change. And I would love to dig into a little bit in terms of your personal development. You talked about your husband somewhat being on board, somewhat not. And
He
I
really
think,
wasn't. Yeah, he really wasn't. It took a while for me to see, but he
mhm,
really wasn't. If anything, he hated what I was doing as well, I think.
mm,
Yeah. And that's okay. Right?
yeah,
Like that's a long time. Like 26 years in a
mhm,
relationship is a long time. And it was 26 years. What year are we? We're 2025, right? It was
yeah,
25 years married, 27 together. Yeah, that's a long
mhm,
time. And people
mhm,
change. And
mhm,
actually, Layla explained this at one of the retreats we were at, my partner and I were at last November. She goes, I like to look at relationships of like people getting in cars. There's like, oh, there's this cute little car and it's going here. And there's another one
mhm,
and it's going here. There's another one that's going here. You get to pick which one you get in. And sometimes you're like, okay, I'm getting out and I'm getting in another car. And oh, I'm getting out. I'm going to go to this direction now. And our directions are all different. And I love that analogy of
mhm,
it's the ebb and flow that meets us of life of where we are at. But when we change when we are where we are at, we also want to be surrounded by people who are where we are at. So we can be
mhm.
in that flow, in that energy, in that transformation together.
Absolutely. That's so important to be able to be met with that. Like, I think, or I say over and over again, one of the most important decisions we will ever make is who we choose to spend our life with.
Mm.
They're what's going to make those highs feel so high that you want to share with them and to celebrate with them. And they're going to make the lows so much better. They're going to help support you. They're going to help pick you up, or it's going to be opposite. And it's going to make those lows so much harder, so much more isolating, beating yourself up so much more. And those high points, they're not going to feel as high. And so it's really important that we make that decision, that we continue to choose to make that decision and come together in that way. And I think each of us, we really reflect kind of different options in this journey, where, like, for you, it became so clear that, like, your husband's not along for the ride. And for me, I'm so grateful. My husband was like fully supporting, not sure what's going on, but like, I'll support you in it. And he did rise up to the occasion for me. And I find
Mhm.
a lot of clients are quite worried about that like fork in the road
Yeah,
and
and I think that's
what's going to happen.
absolutely, I think that's a really good point to talk about of even if your current partner won't rise up and meet you where you're at, there are other partners who are ready to rise up and meet you where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And that one's like like truly available. And that's the beautiful play of the universe, right? Like the universe has got our backs. And
Mm-hmm.
we are going in a direction that we are called. I do deeply feel that the reclamation originally with Pussy with Mama Gina, and I said yes that weekend too. Not only did I go that weekend I decided to sign up for like an 8-month course, and then I did it again, and then I did another level too, right? So that was a pivotal moment. And as soon as we start choosing us and shifting and choosing yes, and it's hard when you've got kids in sports and you're tired and you're running multiple businesses and multiple homes and blah, 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 blah. It's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to start somewhere, start choosing you. But when you do this,
Mm-hmm.
things realign, and the friends line up to meet you, the partners also, line up, rise up to meet you, the business, the career, the truth, the alignment, everything starts coming together. But it's so hard because for me, from such trauma and such um, betrayal and just dysfunction growing up as a younger child and teenager and so forth, it leaves you not trusting, right? It leaves you doubting. It
Mm-hmm.
leaves you not sure of yourself. And for some of us, we have to start back there at reclaiming that part, finding the truth. And that's why I love coming back to the body. Like when we come back to the body, that is where the innate inner knowing lives. That is where we can reconnect to our truth. We just have to peel those layers of the onions off. And when we do that work, everything just opens up. It is beautiful. It is brilliant. It is not always easy. It is hard, but there's nothing else I would rather, because it is so rewarding. And the relationship is so fulfilling, and the purpose and the calling. And I just wanted a man to reach up and be there with me and support me. Not only do I have that, I also have a man now who is now coaching with me and podcasting with me and launching, a retreat space, Phoenix Rising Retreats, right? Where we're launching retreat space to support and hold other couples in their relationship so they can be their best version. And I never desired that. That was never on my desire list. And I'm like, damn, okay, I receive. I receive. It's cool. It's more than cool. I can't, but my face shows it all.
Yes. Well, and it just really goes to show that following your curiosities and your nudges, reclaiming yourself over and over again, how those things really do come into alignment.
Yeah.
And it takes time. There's messy, mucky difficulty in getting there and having those hard conversations, but it's so worth it. It is so rewarding what you get out the other side. It really, truly is.
Absolutely. And these are the things that we are not taught. We're not taught how to consciously communicate. We're not taught how to be present and grounded. We're not taught about our inner children and our triggers. And instead, we are taught to emasculate our men. We are taught to put them down and keep them where they belong, right? Like that kind of. We're taught to be the masculine, more in control, and not be in our feminine. And there's so many things that we are taught. Now, there's reasons for it, right? We needed to have a feminist movement move through and help us reclaim some of our pleasure and power back. And I believe it went too far, and it made women go into their masculine and be in the go 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 instead of the just being who they are. Stop doing so much and just being, surrender, receive. And then when we do that, when we start coming back into our feminine, I believe it allows the men to, again, stand in their masculine and actually be there, be our rocks, be our kings, support us, guide us. It's reclaiming that dynamic of ourself first, and then reclaiming that dynamic in relationship. And that's why I go to the infinity loop. It is an infinity loop as I'm making it here with my hands. It is the masculine and feminine talking about those energies, no matter how you're showing up in relationship, but using those energies in relationship to grow the relationship, to grow what is available.
You put that so beautifully in how doing that work within ourselves, and then it comes into the work and relationship, and it keeps going. And I would love to just dig into that so much more, because it irks me so much. A few different things when like I hear comments of like training our men and putting them in their place and those sorts of things. And
Mm-hmm.
also the women's circles complaining about their poor husbands. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of in this weird situation with that where I don't participate. Like, I'm not going to talk about my husband like that. And now I'm like, okay, how can I nicely like plant seeds within that we don't need to talk like this?
Yeah, it's not
But
healthy.
for me, it was like this big shift in my relationship where I was like a self proclaimed boss babe, very much in my masculine energy, needing to have control, do everything myself, very independent. I moved out when I was 16. And so it was that survival mechanism, doing what I needed to do on my own without help from anyone else. And I remember it probably took a year or two of my now husband paying for things, whether it's dinner or just a random little snack at the grocery store, where I would profusely like be so thankful and so grateful and like, thank you so much. You didn't have to do this. And it took about a year or two for me to unlearn that, because I was just not used to receiving. It felt
Mm-hmm.
so uncomfortable. And I know in my marriage, like at the beginning, when my kids were very, very young, stay at home mom. He was going off to work, and it felt like he just got to keep living his life. He had that time where he could just drive in silence to work and
Mm-hmm.
back home, and then get home, and we'd be talking, and he'd be looking at his phone. And I got so resentful, and I did not have those communication skills. I was not speaking to him in a nice way. And I remember we had a bit of a blow up from that, from the way I was speaking to him, and then me upset about all of these different things. And it was, for me, our low points become my favorite points because we really grow from those. And it was through that and the journey and doing this work, and of course, over the years, that we were able to shed those layers of how our dynamic was, to be able to really lean into those feminine and masculine roles. And it feels so good to
Yeah.
be in those now and know how to meet each other in them and celebrate each other and keep that infinity loop that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It is the most fulfilling, most rewarding way to show up and be seen and be loved for exactly who you are when
Mm-hmm.
you can reach that. And again, we're not taught these skills.
Mm-hmm.
So we were breaking them down even ourselves in the last few weeks as we're building out a new website. Like, sure, yeah, we have to bring in the practicing mindful presence, right? We have to ground, we have to take care of ourselves. We definitely have to do that piece. Then I find we have to, move into conscious communication. Move
Mm-hmm.
into, it's not always going to be easy. There's conflict, there's arguments, there's disagreements, there's people triggered, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to learn how to move into some conscious communication and learn how to connect, learn how to be vulnerable, learn how to feel safe enough in your own body to speak your truth, even if they might not like it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That one's important. Um, Coming into that really beautiful communication together through fun times and good times, but also through the harder times.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think there's definitely always going to be that self discovery and personal growth piece. We all are going to have that on our own, that we all have to have. And then we can also have that part as a relationship, that growth piece. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, then infusing pleasure and intention
Mm-hmm.
into the day to day, into the everyday, into the mundane, and into the things that we love. And then we get to bring in the sacred sexuality, right? The tantric piece of the sacred sexuality, learning how to rediscover our sacred pleasure, but without having orgasm as the goal, right? Start to actually bring in
Mhm.
conscious lovemaking. And when we bring all of those together,
Mhm.
the sky is just literally the limit. There's
Mhm.
so much what's possible for us. And even the hard times, you're like, damn, we're good. Like we got,
Mhm.
right? And that's, we need to learn this. Everybody needs to learn how to do these. They're very simple, really. They're very simple, basic tools when you look at them. But when
Mhm.
you've not been taught or modeled any of these, it can be really messy. Really,
Mhm.
yeah. What's your
Yeah.
favorite? What's your favorite piece in all of those?
Well, I think that whole process really shows like that messy, challenging beginning, like that mindfulness, like it's so important. And that squirrel brain, it can be really hard. Again, the simple things aren't necessarily easy. And then with that conscious communication, so important and so challenging when you're in it and being triggered.
Yeah.
Like when you're having the hard conversations, you are fucking triggered like
Your
so
ego is
much.
like, no, slam that damn door. And I
Yeah.
literally hear her and I'm like, no, I'm going to stay here and be vulnerable, even though I want to. And I'll actually name it. I'll be like, my inner child wants to slam that damn door and walk away right now, but I'm not going to.
Mhm.
And, right?
Yes. Yeah, because it's always there. It really is. And I
Mhm.
think that's so important to bring up too. It's not like we're evolving and healing these things so they no longer come up. It's like,
Yeah,
no.
they're there.
Yeah, we're still dealing with the shit of life and our inner bitty shitty committee is still popping up.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
But we learn how to deal with it. We hear her and it's like, okay, I got you. I'm not doing that, but I hear you and choosing another way. And then the other part of that process is that blossoming. Once you have
Mhm.
that foundation, you get to blossom together. And again, it just makes me think of how our hard parts are some of my favorite parts because when I really think about the last, I would say like 8 months, 8 months ago, we had kind of like a big thing in my relationship. And that one showed me the man that is in front of me right now and how we got through that challenge together. Where if it had just been previously a few years before, we would both be triggered, not necessarily communicating the best. And then it's also showed me not who we're working towards being and what we're working on. It's like, no, this is each of us right here in our shit together, meeting each other. Like, look at how far we've come. Look at him and how he's meeting me. And it really became a favorite point for me, which was so hard for like a week navigating.
Yeah, I totally relate to that. The being met. Something that's really key, I think, also to my story is because of my mother's betrayal, which also started even earlier. She left in a divorce when I was 5, and she left. Like I actually lived with my dad, with my sister in the 80s, so that
Mm-hmm.
was very different for back then.
Mm-hmm.
So I think then I learned to put up a lot of walls around my heart. And then I
Mm-hmm.
continued to through all of my, under 10, over 10, in my 20s, met my ex-husband at the time, right? And I definitely had a wall around my heart. And I actually remember we were talking about this with my partner just the other day. There was a man that I met, or, do we call him men? I guess so, 19-ish, right around that time, a boy that I met. And it was suffocating to me, the love that he was sharing with me. And it felt like too much. And I actually said no to that and ended that because I was not willing to have that type of love. It was like too suffocating, too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason I picked my ex husband was because he was avoidant, he was distant.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, okay, you stay over there. I need this distance. Like that was what was safe around my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So through this journey, through this own work, this is where I actually have felt the walls come down around my heart. I've created that safety,
Mm-hmm.
that trust that we were talking about in my own body through our work that we've done over the years. And that is also what prepared me and allowed me to be open for a higher quality connection,
Mm-hmm.
love. And that love is as we were talking, like we have to keep showing up. We have to like put the ego aside, put the inner child aside, and keep choosing to be vulnerable. Keep choosing
Mhm.
to show up in that way and be seen, fully seen for who we are, which I never did before in my lifetime. I did with some girlfriends over the years of
Mhm.
learning how to do this work, but not with men. And
Mhm.
that in itself, if
Mhm.
there's just one piece that's so, so beautiful and healing, it is that. But again, we have to
Mhm.
learn how to be vulnerable, but to learn
Mhm.
how to, again, show up that way and actually put down the walls of your heart, like literally take those walls down. And
Mhm.
again, if you've done any of these things we've been talking about in this episode, like no shame, like that is what we're taught. We're taught
Mhm.
to put our heads down, give more, do more, not take, our own needs, not create boundaries, say yes, overgive. There's so much tied into that. And to have that reclamation process is
Mhm.
wow. And I'm really glad my children witnessed that. They needed to see that.
Mhm.
That's the way that we create change, is allowing them to witness that.
Absolutely. Like being able to lead the way for our families and show them that we can create change, that we can reclaim ourselves, that we can create the lives and relationships that we want. No matter what that journey looks like, it's so important for them to witness, because we are the models for them in their relationships. And I think that was a tough part for me, because I had never witnessed like a passionate, loving marriage. Like I will say, I have one set of grandparents where they deeply loved each other and they were together up until my grandfather passed away. But I wouldn't say they were like passionate, or necessarily showed those sides of relationship that are really important to me. So I think that added to that stumbling through.
Hmm.
But as you touched on, like that vulnerability is what really deepens the connection. And like you, I had massive walls around my heart. I am still working on those walls coming down more and more in different situations. But in relationship, when we do that, when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, when, like for me, it's stopping myself from walking away,
Yeah.
and it's no, okay, I'm going to be in this. And when we move through those processes and we get out the other side, like that's such positive reinforcement for our whole bodies and our systems, that, like, yes, this is worth it. Yes, I get to be seen and celebrated for who I am. And it builds that momentum. Like we spent some time on that messy, clunky beginning, but once you're through that, like that momentum just goes and that blossoming just happens. And it's just so incredible and so worth it.
It really, truly is. And I actually now, I think we have all of the shit, all of the muck, all of the trauma, all of the dark, dark moments in our lives to
Mhm.
come back to self, to come back to
Mhm.
purpose, which I believe our purpose deeply is to be our true authentic selves. And not only
Mhm.
be our true authentic selves, to show up that way in the every single day, but also even deeper, to show up that way in relationship, to
Yeah.
actually be truly deeply seen at that level in front of another human, where they might not like it. They could walk. They could, it's risky
Mhm. Mhm.
when we show up that way. You could be rejected, abandoned, and all and so forth. And again, keep choosing you, because I think we do the opposite
Mhm.
instead. We're a
Mhm.
good girl, we're a good mom, we're a good wife, good partner, to make sure we are safe. And I get it. Like if we go back hundreds of years in history, that was needed. You had to
Mhm.
stay safe in the tribe to protect your children and so forth.
Mhm.
And now we don't need to do that to the same degree. And
Mhm.
yet we can be our true selves. We can keep showing up, and we can do so much more
Mhm.
amazing, powerful stuff together when we continue to do that and come together and create that infinity loop and grow together.
Mhm. Yes, yes, yes. And as we are kind of beginning to wrap up, I always like to include some tangible takeaways for those who are listening. So I'd love it if you could share perhaps two tangible takeaways, one for those that are in that like messy, clunky beginning, and one for those that are in their like blossoming exploration.
Messy, clunky beginning in relationship.
Yes.
Messy, clunky beginning for relationship. Set boundaries. Speak your truth. Don't do it in a yelling way, right? But actually take a moment if you need to ground. Don't be afraid to come back to it tomorrow and say, hey, you mentioned something yesterday that I'd like to talk about. Is this a good time? Because I don't want to have a fight around it. I want to talk about it because it bothered me. All right. And sharing that one's, I think, really, really key. Continuing to be yourself, continuing to show up, continuing to speak your truth, create boundaries, right? There's a few in there. There's a few in there. But that is needed because and I remember deciding this in this relationship when I started dating Roberto in the beginning of, I shouldn't text him. Oh, but no, I already texted him. I'm not going to text him anymore. And then I was like, fuck that. I want to text him. And if he doesn't like it, then he might as well figure this out now because I'm going to be me. So that was a huge thing with early dating that I was like, nope, I'm saying what I want. I remember thinking, oh, maybe I should censor this answer. And then I was like, nope, I'm going to be my full fucking self now because this is what I want to be and am for the rest of my life. So it's interesting. You can catch yourself still trying to hide and play. And it's like, nope. So that's a big thing. Really keep being yourself. And the other one was for women who are taking care of themselves, more just like not in relationship or struggling in relationship.
I'd say still in the relationship, but they've moved through a lot of that messy, clunky beginning, have that communication, and are kind of coming into the blossoming exploration. So what can support them in that?
You still need to continue to do your work. That is the key, right? You can't just go, ooh, we made it, we're done. Like it's a growth journey. It's a continuing to deepen. It's a continuing to explore. I have one coming up this week that I'm playing with him about feeling lazy. And he's like, sit your ass down and rest. I'm like, but I feel lazy, right? And he's like, it's interesting. It comes from past relationships. It even comes all the way back to childhood from my mother. Like I can feel the pieces coming in there. So there's always another level, another layer. Does it mean it's exhausting? No, it's just sitting there, you're observing it, you're moving through the motions, you're doing a little work on it, you go back to pleasure and taking care of yourself, and then something else comes up. And again, naming it. I think naming it is number one key within a partnership of just like, hey, I'm noticing blank, being vulnerable, showing your emotions. All of these things are so, so important. Yeah. And if something comes up that triggers you and you're not ready to talk about it, I'm not ready right away. It's not because I don't want to talk about it. I don't have the words for it yet. I have to process it. I have to digest it. So we recognize that. And I love discussing with him and going, okay, so how do you think? How do men think about this? Let's talk about the women to men thing because I think that's so incredible to understand. I want to understand, like we are very different species, literally, men and women.
Yes.
Very different. And I want to understand because we think frequently that they're just not doing it or not listening or, not supporting us. And frequently it's a misunderstanding. They think differently.
So good. And it sounds like very much the same thing for both ends of the spectrum. Coming into yourself. Yeah. Over and over again. Speaking up, creating those boundaries when something comes up, naming it, and understanding we all process things in a different way. We understand things in a different way, which is so important and was a huge piece for me as well. I think it was Alison Armstrong in the Queen's Code who talked about how often men, like when they pause, that doesn't mean we should keep talking. Just allow them the space to process. And that was huge for me the first time I practiced it. And I didn't start speaking at the pause and I just sat and kept waiting, which is now the default. And it's like, wow, so much comes from that pause and just allowing him to process and talk in the way he needs to without me coming at it.
Yeah. And it's not easy, right? When we came from more of an independent, take care of ourselves, be in control, get it done, it's a different shift, which I find a lot of successful women are from that background of you and I, right? We're push, go, we're successful, driven. And it's a new way of learning how to be in relationship and heal every single aspect of your life.
It's like that got us out of the survivor mode in a lot of ways, got us to where we are. And it's like, okay, now we need to make a shift to truly, truly thrive.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So,
And it's better than you can imagine.
absolutely.
I can't even put it into words. It's yeah.
It's one of the things you don't know what you're missing until you're in it. And it's like, oh, this is what's possible.
It's the same with Tantra, right? When you're diving into Tantra, you can't really explain it. It's super hard to explain, but something you has to be felt. And when you feel it, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
it's that core truth, soul, purpose, alignment. Yes.
Yes. So as we wrap up, we are coming up to time. I'm just wondering if you have any last messages or want to kind of wrap up this conversation for those listening. One last thing you would like to share.
Trust yourself, right? If you're listening and you're like here and you're like, ooh, I want to, but right? It's trust yourself. It is say yes, choose you. You have to choose you. And something, with men, I also see it all the same. Men do not choose themselves either. So when we're in a relationship like you and I are, we have to also invite our men to choose themselves as well. And sometimes that can feel scary because we're like, oh, but if they choose them, they might say no to me, right? Like there's a little dynamic in there. And again, just choose yourself, encourage your partner to choose themselves, speak their truth, your truth. It's needed. It's needed.
It is. And so beautiful. That trust is so key. Trusting yourself, trusting them, trusting the process. That'll all unfold as it should. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. It was such a pleasure. Where can those listening find you? I know you have lots going on with some podcast shifts, Phoenix Rising. Please share.
I will. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So my kind of core business model for the last many years has been Get Your Sexy Back, right? So you can find me at getyoursexyback.ca for Canada. Help you remember that one. Get Your Sexy Back Coach on Instagram. It will be changing to Phoenix Rising very, very soon. And then phoenixrising.com will be out very soon. It's in the middle of being launched on the website right now. And for Phoenix Rising, you can find us on TikTok, Phoenix Rising Retreats. Both of them will be available, and they're both going to still coexist. So it's at Phoenix Rising Retreats. It is couple retreats is what we're launching right now, where couples can come and learn how to practice these tools of communication and play with Tantra and learn how to, practice grounding and sensual embodiment and really continue your own personal growth, emotional release, all of this good, amazing stuff we've been talking about. And we're bringing Get Your Sexy Back coaching, of course, into that, and a beautiful 5-acre property that we have in Northern Ontario. So right now we're just doing private intensive for couples, one couple at a time for July and August and September and then we'll be launching the group retreats, which we have launched officially. We'll be filling up the group retreats for the fall. And really excited for that. So it's really, really exciting. So you can find me at either of those, Get Your Sexy Back or Get Your Sexy Back Coach. .ca for the Get Your Sexy Back, and then Phoenix Rising is phoenixrisingretreats.com. Yeah, so really, really excited. There'll be links for both on both websites, so whatever feels aligned. And of course, the podcast, Get Your Sexy Back, which has been mainly speaking to women for most of the years. There's been some men's stuff, so definitely relationship and couples work, but we have just shifted in the last couple of weeks to Get Your Sexy Back for couples, where Roberto is now joining me, and we are podcasting and sharing together, which is super exciting. I have his microphone sitting here beside me. I actually have two here. We could fold in which one we want. So that is really, really fun I never would have imagined I'd be doing this with my partner, and it's incredible.
So incredible. So many exciting things. And I must say, I'm personally quite excited for the podcast shift with both of you on. I think there's something really special being able to hear both perspectives on these different topics. So it's such a valuable resource. I'm really looking forward to tapping into that. And we'll make sure that absolutely everything is linked in the show notes. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you so, so much. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing this episode come out and continuing our journey together.
Me too. And thank you for those that have been listening. Again, I will make sure all of those links are there for you so it's really easy to find. And if you found this podcast interesting or helpful, of course, go ahead, check out Kim. And if you would like to leave a rating or a review for the podcast, it would be so, so appreciated. It really helps us get this message out there for more women and couples who could really use this information. So thank you again, and sending you off with so much love. Thank you for joining us inside the Unapologetic with Janine McKinnon podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you feel called, I would so appreciate it if you left us a review to help us reach more women and couples so they can experience deeper connection and more expansive pleasure inside and outside the bedroom too. Until next time, embrace your desire and experience your magic.